Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. We are now only less than 3 weeks away from the first matches of the CDL, but some big questions still to be answered, such as who is OpTic and other teams' substitutes still going to be? With Damon Karma Barlow still looking rather good behind the scenes, Shotzzy has given an offer, it seems, to Karma to join the team as their sub. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss. More on the GA side here in a second, because that drama is certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. One quick update here from ESG. Electrify Steel confirming their Modern Warfare 2 Challenger team. Chino, Morks, Noisy and Wardy, the subliners sub. So this is not going to be the subliners academy. Some teams will do that. There's a question whether the team should be mandated to do that and have academy rosters. It would be an interesting thing to see if the CDL said, you know what, you no longer need to pay 50k for a substitute. You need to pay 100k or 80k or something for an entire team. And yes, okay, that falls below the 50k minimum salary, but it does support the challenger scene much better. Right now, the pro teams don't have an incentive to do that, so some teams will have an academy roster like LAG, some teams will not. We might have more this season than we have had in previous seasons, but still, you know, Hex has even said for OpTic he doesn't really see the benefit right now in having an academy team, and even the subliners, they're going to have their sub, they're not going to have an academy this season, at least as it stands. But still a pretty good team regardless, and the first cup is coming up, I believe, well, starting today. Quickly on the GAs again, because the Vaznev, there's even been some talk about this weapon again, just because the M4 is rather good. Is the Vaznev for the SMGs pretty good as well, just because I'm sure the AR players and what we saw from Envoy yesterday aren't so happy that their main gun, the M4, might get GA'd, so they might want, as a consequence, the best SMG to get gone as well. I don't know what's going on anymore, but there has been some updates. This is the current GAs in North American challenges, which probably will get copied over for the pros, and has been copied largely in Europe as well. It looks pretty similar to this. So 2 trophies only allowed, 1 smoke allowed in search and destroy, no smokes in respawn. This is a big one actually. The SAE has been banned over the last couple of days. This is effectively the precision airstrike, or the lightning strike, I'm pretty sure is what it kind of refers to in previous games. And the reason why this has been banned, we believe, is because, you know, like lightning strikes back in the day, you could ping it up one time and it would let you have a UAV once, and then you could call it in whenever you wanted. So you could use those two things separately. If you wanted to know where the last girl was in search and destroy, or you wanted to know where they were going in search and destroy, ping the SAE or ping the lightning strike, see where they are and get the free UAV callouts. That makes a fair bit of sense. Now apparently the SAE is bugged in such a way that you can do this every round. If you get the SAE in search and destroy, you can get a ping every single round of search and destroy, which is not the way that it's been in the past, not the way that it really should be, but I guess Infinity Ward didn't think about that. So as a result, they're banning it. It becomes too overpowered if you get a free UAV every round. Now the high tower only is allowed on the M4, so no barrel is not allowed, but the high tower only is allowed, which is pretty interesting to try and balance it a bit more, I suppose. The 74U, of course, the cast-off 74U is longer, no attachment on the snipers. They're still using snipers for now, which is still a positive thing. No hipfire underbarrels, we saw that. The X12 only, that's the only pistol you're allowed to use. No Fennec, no Orc. That is the GA list for now. And just to add another thing here, as we just saw actually, the fast M4 is what everyone has to be using. So everyone using the M4 must use the high tower barrel. Using no barrel is not an option either. So they're trying their absolute hardest, it seems, to keep the M4 in the game and just use attachments. And this is kind of the easy Mack blueprint idea, right? Use certain attachments and force that on the weapon that everyone uses, and then we don't have to worry about GA so much anymore. But yeah, it's still going to be a topic that is definitely not going away anytime soon. And just to confirm here that on the European side as well, the SAE has also been added, seemingly because it's kind of bugged in search and destroy right now, which is kind of unfortunate because it's one of the better kill streaks, to be honest. But you know, it seems like it's probably, like, if you get a free UAV every round, probably not reasonable to allow that in search and destroy, especially given some of the other stuff that's getting banned at the moment. Quick comment here from JP Krez, new OpTic analyst, on their meta, because we saw recently that JP Krez coming in as their new analyst instead of Sender, effectively. They still don't need a substitute. Some teams have got those things confirmed. Even I think Los Angeles Guerrillas, they confirmed their academy. I don't know if it's official yet that it's Joe Deceives on their academy that's their official substitute player, but many teams already have guys associated with that organization behind the scenes, and therefore substitutes ready to come through. But for OpTic, it's not really so clear yet. Firstly, on JP Krez though, no dead silence meta in scrims at the moment is so lame, just limiting playmaking abilities even in respawn now with everyone's mix amps cranked up. Just got to adapt once again, I guess. And even Clay gives a kind of funny reply here, right? Bro, I can't even push a guy hiding one shot behind the wall because I get heard 50 feet away and pre-fired because my gun pulls out slower than Nick Cannon. I had to Google Nick Cannon, not like a household name here in the UK, but I believe he's having his 12th fourth child. So that's the pull-up joke there from Clayster. Pretty funny stuff, to be honest. And this is a fair point, right? Certainly in Respawn as well. Now, on LAN, this changes a bit. We've heard in the past that when you're on LAN with the crowd, with the white noise in your ears, you can't hear the footsteps as much as you can online and in these kind of online tournaments. You definitely can still hear footsteps and you can still crank up the mix amp, but it's less audible on LAN. And the footstep range in this game, like the footsteps are loud, don't get me wrong, but the range isn't maybe as bad as it has been in previous games. Look, again, dead silence should be a thing, but Infinity would clearly have other priorities, and no matter how hard the pros and the CDL and everything work with those developers behind the scenes to get anything changed, if they even want to do it at all or just shut it down entirely, then it's going to take a long time for that to happen. So there is still some hope that dead silence as a perk might arrive at some point, but yeah, I think the pros have kind of committed at this point to just adapting to this year's playstyle. Let's talk OpTic then, because yeah, 2 years ago, yesterday was the day where it was officially confirmed that OpTic were going to be back, so he bought it back from Immortals, basically. That was 2 years ago. Crazy how time flies, to be honest, when OpTic Chicago were formed, and then a year after that, the OpTic Texas drama then officially occurred. Dashy says, I love Modern Warfare 2. Not sure how realistic this actually is. Dashy, I don't know how good of a time he's actually having. I know the OpTic guys, after playing their first sets of scrims, did kind of enjoy the game. I mean, it's difficult to say, because usually at the start of the game, that's when you get this honeymoon period, where the game is actually the most fun it's going to be. A few months into the game, that's when the COD cycle really starts kicking in. So, don't know if Dashy's really enjoyed himself here, because of course there's plenty of complaints about the game as it stands, but it must be noted that the more fun you have on a game, probably the better you're going to be at it, right? We kind of saw that with FaZe last season. They were not the biggest fans of Vanguard. aBeZy probably had his worst year, and Simp did as well in several years of competing, to be honest. So probably goes to show, if you don't love the game, might not work out too well for you in terms of actual season results, and well, OpTic need Dashy to deliver this season because it's Scump's send-off of his career. Last night also they did this kind of OpTic hangout thing. Thought this is a funny video actually, because these guys are trying to figure out what attachments to use. Scump's chilling because he knows the attachments, and then Bobby Pop is just absolutely mind-blown, as is Hex, trying to figure out the gunsmith, right? I thought their faces are kind of a picture really just backing up exactly what you'd expect people to think about looking through all these gunsmith type stuff. Now, this also to say, because we saw a while ago now that Scump admitted on, I think it was an OpTic podcast, that basically he's not going to become a coach. Coaching is not what he wants to do after he retires. Like, there's no way he's actually going to do that. But it was interesting last night to see these guys with Scump behind them kind of in a coaching position. Not sure he was doing actual much coaching, but still, I thought it was kind of nice to see. Especially this one with Scump kind of looking on at what could be, you know, trying to take over the torch to some degree with OpTic going forwards. But Shotzzy also was on stream playing with Karma the other day, and Karma clutches a very nice 1 versus 3, and Shotzzy says, hey Karma, what about joining us as a substitute for the upcoming season? And also wanted to share a clip here from Scump where, well, it's not his POV, it's Vegas's POV, because OpTic have stopped streaming their practice. Vegas still are, and yeah, Scump is just running riot here on Fortress and gets about 7 kills in just over 20 seconds.
Oh my god.
Come on, Damon. You know what we call those? We call those irons. Irons.
Yo, we need to sub, Damon. You down or not?
You're close? There's
Yes.
one egg. One shot low.
Yo, our top out.
And top. Yeah.
Weak in there.
That's our low dark.
Two
Done
on
it.
B. We just need to
Iron up.
We just
Stop
B.
Stop B, bro. Stop B. He's on B. Two on B, guys.
Upstairs.
Damn.
Oh, work the building.
Alright.
How did this happen,
We're in a trap.
We gotta be trolling.
So Scump is definitely looking really good so far this game in terms of their scrims, what I've seen so far. Looking at the scoreboards on occasion, Scump is honestly usually towards the top of the scoreboards. Definitely a game in theory with the kind of movements being a little bit slower than usual. No crazy advanced movement type stuff that kind of serves the more traditional players rather well. Like we've seen already so far that accuracy has been making some nice plays, and that's not exactly a massive surprise given that accuracy hasn't always been the most proficient with the movement. Scump definitely has when required, but his playstyle is aligned rather well to the way this game plays, and it would be sad in a way to see him absolutely dominate this season and then go out on this season regardless, even if he's still, you know, one of the best players in the game going into next year. But he's decided to call it quits at this point. Now, Karma also called it quits a few years ago now, back in Modern Warfare 2019. He retired during that Seattle Surge disaster class of a season, and you can't really blame him for doing so. Now, since then, there's been some talk from his wife Holly and even Karma himself about potentially returning. He's obviously still got it if he wanted to deliver, and that's the question here. If like Karma actually wanted to play, like, I'm sure he could play on a level adequate for, especially being a substitute, if not a full-time starting pro player. Whether that's actually on his agenda, because I know that, you know, Karmas know that he's maybe not the most committed to these type of situations, and if he was to be a substitute, would he be the best substitute? Probably not. So I think that's the concern here. He's obviously still got it, but is he going to be best positioned to actually be a sub just in case? Probably not. There's other guys you could get there from the challenger side that are playing the game day in, day out, keeping up with the meta, and those are probably the guys to get. But then again, who do you actually get right now? Because a lot of the top guys in challenges have either been signed to organizations, signed to other substitute teams. Like at last season, they had General, of course, but General's now kind of been let go by them. They might bring him back, but it's kind of unclear what General's doing in challenges right now, if anything at all. And also, General doesn't really fit the mold in terms of a flex player that you really need. Karma's the ideal guy. He can run an AR, he can run an SMG as your substitute. Like, he's the ideal substitute type player, really, because he can step into any role if required that OpTic have missed over the last couple of years. It was kind of difficult to say. We saw, we talked for a while about Gunless, right, being their potential sub, and he might have been signed somewhere. We still don't know where, because I think he's got his visa now, Gunless, to stay in the US. So we think he's got signed somewhere as a result. We still don't know where, though. So definitely intrigued to your thoughts on all that in the comment section below, because, yeah, I don't know if OpTic are exactly running out of time here, because there's a few weeks to go, but they're going to need to sign a substitute player at some point, because it is mandated by the league. They've got to have someone there, and some other teams as well also haven't confirmed who their subs are going to be, and, well, I suppose they're just going to wait a little bit, potentially. I think they have to get someone in. What they could do, theoretically, is sign Rambo as their sub for the near term, and then as soon as Major 1 happens, potentially in Raleigh, with the amateur players there, then pick the best of the amateur bunch. That might be what some other teams are looking to do. Get your sub, or get your coach to be the sub, basically, the Paris Legion strat, and then actually sign a substitute when you know who's good, which is maybe a viable strategy as well. Quick comment here on Toronto before we close out, because there's definitely been these Toronto guys. It's kind of unclear how good they're going to be this season to me, but Scrappy has been out of control. Now, even Adam Adamo here says, CleanX has been looking like the league MVP during yesterday's scrims. Can't wait for the season to start. Now, I just looked at a couple of scoreboards here that CDL Scrimmintel was tweeting out, and this one, in fairness, CleanX is bottom of the scoreboard here, but it probably doesn't show the whole story. But just pretty much everything I looked through, I think Boston took a few maps off Toronto, but Toronto right now in scrims probably looking like the stronger team. Scrappy is just like delivering the goods, man. I mean, this guy, I was looking at the scrim results and the scoreboards, like every map this guy's got 25 plus, pretty much consistently. It's actually kind of scary to think about. This is the hydroelectric map here, he is with 29, and this is just a sample of 2 that I chose, and this one, CleanX, does have 29, but Scrappy's here at 24 as well, top of the scoreboard, top score, loads of time in hill. So yeah, man, it's kind of a scary thing for the league this season. Scrappy obviously is coming in with lots of expectation that he's going to be the rookie of the year, and he's certainly got the personality and the ability to deliver on it, right? And Toronto so far looking pretty good to back that up in their scrims over the last couple of days. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new as always, take care, and I will see you next time.